Greetings to you. I'm Brother James Muhammad, a student in the ministry of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and your host for this week's segment of Closing the Gap broadcast. We want to welcome all of our viewing and listening audience, those of you who are regular attendees to this broadcast. You come out every week, and then, of course, we are hopeful that there will be some in attendance and participation who are here for their first, second, or third time. But for those of you who are regular in attendance and participation, you know that we always invoke the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the one God to whom all praise is due, the Lord of the worlds. We thank Almighty God Allah for his merciful intervention in our affairs in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, and we thank him for raising up from our midst his messenger, Messiah, the exalted Christ, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, through whom we have been given our beloved and blessed Redeemer. And I refer to him as my personal Savior. The man of whom I speak is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. It is to these men that we are deeply grateful and highly honored for this wonderful privilege and honor and opportunity to present to you a platform from which the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, as they are given to us by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, can be shared by and through his profound students, two of which we will be hosting this evening. I want to greet all of you, my dear brothers and sisters, all of you who are listening and viewing, with the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language, Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you.
Alaikum salam, sir.
Sir.
Yes, sir. And of course, we are joined by our dear brother and co-host, student in the ministry, and student minister of Muhammad Mosque number 47, my dear brother and ours, student minister Chad Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam, big brother. Glad to be here. Glad to see you, and also our dear brother, student minister Ilia Rashad. Glad.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, sir, dear brother. I want to also extend the love and greetings from our dear sister, Stala Muhammad, who is traveling. And we pray to Allah that she has safe travels. But of course, she definitely wants us to extend her love and greetings to you in the greeting words of Assalamu alaikum.
Yes, sir.
Salam.
Okay, there he is. Tonight, my dear family, we are blessed and privileged to host two of what I believe, in my humble opinion, are two profound students of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, members of the research team of the Nation of Islam and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, well known because of their publications, one of which we're going to be highlighting this evening. But we're so very thankful to Almighty God for the presence, once again, of our dear brothers, student minister Ilia Rashad Muhammad, and we are awaiting the arrival of student minister Demetric Muhammad, who I'm sure will be with us shortly. But I want to present to you, it's not necessarily introducing because they're very well known. But I'd like to present to you our dear brother, since he's here, and give him an opportunity to have some opening words regarding tonight's segment. I'd like to present to all of you our dear brother, fellow student in the ministry, researcher extraordinaire, our dear brother, student minister Ilia Rashad Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam, dear brother James and brother Chad, and of course to the entire listening and viewing audience of Closing the Gap broadcast. Always honored to be here, sir.
Yes, sir. And of course, the honor is ours, dear brother, particularly this broadcast, because this broadcast centers on a very significant event that took place 39 years ago, which we refer to as More Than a Vision experience of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Now, I'm not going to be too wordy about it because we're going to depend upon you and Student Minister Demetric to tell us all about that momentous event that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan experienced, a revelatory experience, really more than a vision, 39 years ago. We're going to be dealing with the reality of the mother wheel. This, of course, is the latest Final Call newspaper, the cover of the latest Final Call newspaper, which I strongly, strongly encourage everyone under the sound of our voice to make sure you have a copy or two. The wheel, the reality of the wheel. So I'm going to turn it over to Brother Student Minister Chad Muhammad, and we can get this rolling by Allah's grace.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you, Student Minister James. I concur. It's just always a pleasure. This is such a hot topic. Student Minister Ilia, I wanted you to know, and I did text you, I believe that, when by Allah's grace, we had movie night here in Tampa.
Oh, yeah.
The believers, we decided to watch The Answer Part 2. And I just wanted to share with you that, we had a packed room. We was watching it. Believers is like, well, when can I see it again? How can I get, a hold of it to be able to watch it? So it's most definitely still a request of the believers, and also just even laws found about The Answer, and we're just so glad that, being put together, that it was put together in the format that you did. And also just wanted to just to thank, Closing the Gap got a chance to make both, the Answer Part 1 and the Answer Part 2 also there, brother. So, I would just like to start with that. I remember hearing you say about how the title of The Answer came about, because there's so many questions when it comes to the UFO phenomenon. So if you could just kind of explain a little bit the backdrop of The Answer and how it's still going and the momentum and where you plan on taking it from there.
And Brother Chad and Student Minister Ilia, if I could, before we get into that, we've been blessed with the arrival of our dear brother, our other guest, Student Minister Demetric Muhammad. I just want to welcome him to the show and thank him publicly for the honor of his presence here. Assalamu alaikum, dear brother.
Wa alaikum salam, Student Minister James and Brother Chad, Student Minister Ilyas. Wonderful opportunity to be with you tonight. Very honored and looking forward to the conversation.
All praises due to Allah. And so let us continue. Go ahead, Brother Student Minister Chad.
Yes, sir. So that was the question there, brother. Just if you can expound like any updates on The Answer and, just this momentum and the next phase and where we going from here. Yes.
One of the last things, and of course we have been so blessed to have produced and shared this profound documentary series, Answered, throughout this country. And one of the last things that we actually came up with was the name, because we understood that the themes that we would attempt to cover, which would involve the wheel, which would involve the baby planes or so-called UFOs, it would certainly involve the history of the Nation of Islam and its connection to these planes. It would heavily involve the history and teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the history and profound works of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. So you're dealing with a range of topics and themes that need to be explicated and expounded upon. And we had a whole lot of different names that we were thinking of, But it wasn't until just before the first episode was produced that we were able to settle on the name Answered. And it came because what we have in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the guidance of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan literally is the answer. And so when it comes particularly to the UFO phenomena, which has world governments spending countless billions and trillions of dollars trying to find out what these things are, trying to monitor these crafts that have literally destabilized military sites throughout the world, we are professing to the entire world that we literally have the answer. So we aptly titled this docuseries Answered to focus attention on those who do not guess, to focus the attention on those of us who do not theorize, but indeed have the answer to what you call the UFO phenomena. And the answers to all of that has already been foretold. And now the Nation of Islam is literally fulfilling everything that has been prophesied. So that's kind of been the backdrop of how we came up with the name Answered. And since then, we've been more than blessed to be able to travel this country and showcase the profundity, the profoundness of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad through cinema, through cinematic videos in this documentary. And every audience, every city, every town that we left was left in amazement in a good way. So we're very thankful for that.
Praise be to Allah. Now, dear brother, your image is frozen. I don't know if you can correct that on your end. We can definitely hear you, though. All praises due to Allah. While our brother is making corrections on the visual, let's engage our dear brother, student minister Demetric Muhammad. And you know, dear brother, there is a documentary that is currently being played on the Nation's program, which we, of course, will direct all of the registered Muslims to go and see and watch. But right now, brother student minister Demetric, the wheel from God himself. You have the floor, dear brother.
Brother Student Minister James, Brother Student Minister Chad, I'm just so profoundly honored to have an opportunity on this most momentous occasion, the 39th anniversary of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's, what we call more than a vision-like experience.
That's right.
On the wheel, where he heard the voice of his beloved and illustrious teacher, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he was given certain knowledge, certain wisdom, certain divine insight into the present day and time as it was in 1985. And we also believe that he was given divine insight into the subsequent years of guidance for us as a people, all the way up into this present moment. So it's just a great honor to be able to commemorate, to celebrate, to uplift, and to put back in front of the eyes of the public this all too often left out critical piece of modern Black history. So I love this subject, and I'm just excited to talk about it, you know, because I think that our people really, really need to hear from the Nation of Islam on this very significant subject that time and circumstances is conspiring to elevate in the consciousness of the American people And we have seen just in recent years that the United States government is finally sticking its toe into the waters of disclosure.
That's
by
right.
sharing with the American people some basic information that is, even though it's basic, it's quite extraordinary, because for so many years, the official narrative coming from the US government was that anybody that reported on seeing an unidentified flying object, they were told that, well, maybe it was swamp gas, maybe it was a weather balloon, or maybe you were just getting high or getting drunk and you don't know what you saw. And so for the most powerful government in the world to admit that, lo and behold, what we've been telling you has been a lie, because it wasn't swamp gas, it wasn't a weather balloon, but these are real vessels, these are real objects in the sky, and that these are objects that the United States government does not control, and that these are objects that the United States government actually stands in fear of. And so we believe that this discovery, or I should say disclosure, needs to be publicized in the Black community, because too many of our people, John and Jane Q. Public of Black America, if we see the local news report say something about UFOs, we change the channel. We don't think that that has anything at all to do with us. We say from the back room, sweetheart, change the channel, put it on the game. We say, we don't need to hear about that. Put it on my favorite soap opera. Let's watch the latest episode of Power. I don't want to see that 60 Minutes news story about unidentified flying objects. And that's because our leaders, our teachers, the clergy class in Black America doesn't know how to talk intelligently about this very significant global phenomenon that, after many years of nations around the earth disclosing their files to the public, the American people, the American government has finally decided to share just a little bit of what it knows with the American people. And so the Nation of Islam is poised and positioned by Allah to be the authorities on this subject. And I believe that we have a duty and a responsibility to take this critical aspect of our teaching, which I should say for many years, we were mocked regarding this aspect of our teaching and belief. But now God, who is the God of time, who is the God of circumstances, is causing time and circumstances to bring this critical and very significant reality before the inquisitive eyes of people in America and around the world. So I'm happy to be a part of this conversation tonight, and we need to have many more conversations like this so that our people, Ray and Pookie and Keisha and them in the hood, Black folk, can know that when the news media begins to talk about UFOs, you need to stop what you're doing and pay attention, because it has everything to do with us and God's plan for our salvation and deliverance.
That's right.
Praise is due to Allah.
Praise be to Allah. We got some questions coming in. Thank you, Student Minister Demetric, for that great intro. This is a question from DJ Universal. He said, Assalamu alaikum. I just got my DVD answered. Probably the best UFO documentaries ever made. Greatest proof that God isn't a spook. Will you be making another one?
It's not probably the best UFO documentary ever made. I think that's pretty certain right there.
Keep it real.
And I say that because you don't find, and you won't find other documentaries or books outside of those of us who've been blessed by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Farrakhan to offer the most authoritative voices and a position on this subject matter. So if for no other reason, it is the best because unlike the rest of those so-called experts and researchers, we deal with the source of this phenomena. And that source is directly the Nation of Islam. And for any researcher, any leader, any historian, any UFO expert to continue trying to explain or even analyze the modern UFO phenomena and leave out the source of this phenomena, which is the Nation of Islam, it is absolutely hypocritical. It's negligent. And there's a lot of racism involved in that too. But to answer the other part of that question, we will be working on part 3. We're getting in the lab now because we have so much. I remember 3 years ago, we sent the minister and the council and the research team part of the scope of where we wanted to go with this documentary series. So there's so much more to talk about. Even though we already put forth so much powerful information in part 1 of Answered, the Prelude, as well as The Coming of God, which was a 2-hour documentary series.
Yes, sir.
Filled with powerful information. But guess what? There's so much more that still needs to be shared and told. So yes, we will be having more of this very, very powerful subject matter. And it's not just something that we put forth for entertainment purposes, but this is indeed the information that is key to our people's salvation. This is something our people need. This is not something that's just some deep information. Absolutely not. This is arguably the most important information that could be discussed in this day and time. Because if you look at it, your government, the American government, Western governments, governments and militaries throughout the world have expended countless billions and trillions of their taxpayer dollars, literally trying to find out more, and even in some cases trying to counteract this very subject matter of these wheels. So if your government is putting so much of their defense spending and your taxpayer dollars into the very thing that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan represent to us, it would make a lot of sense for you and me to focus our attention on that, but to do so from the source. And that source, again, starts with the Nation of Islam.
Absolutely. Praise be to Allah. You know, Student Minister Demetric, in your introductory remarks, you underlined and underscored a very salient point as it relates to Black people. For one reason or another, we tend to absent ourselves from these monumental events, and we also absent ourselves from prophecy. Now, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has titled this week's Final Call newspaper article from him, "The Will and Change from God Himself." Well, we know the presence of the will represents certainly a change in terms of power. But what is the change as it relates to Black people? Why should Black people be interested or involved?
You know, dear brother, that's a wonderful question because it ties so perfectly into our theme, which is borrowed from one of the great legendary Negro spirituals called Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. And as you raise that question, it reminds me of the great value of this kind of knowledge and wisdom the great value of this reality to a people who have suffered so much and so long. When Wallace Willis wrote that song, he was writing it from the standpoint of being what the historians call a Choctaw freedman. And that nomenclature identifies him as being a Black man that had a connection to the Choctaw Indians. And I believe that his writing of that wonderful song was in advance of the reality of what he was singing about coming to pass and being made known to the Black people of America. And I don't think that there is any coincidence that the man that wrote that song, his name is Wallace Willis, because we know that when the great Mahdi came to Detroit, he came wearing the name Wallace. And the wheel, as we are discussing tonight, the great mother wheel, that as you raise the Final Call newspaper is being discussed, is the result of his will and determined plan to deliver the Black man and woman of America, along with the 2 million Indians, from the power and the control of our slave masters and their children. So just as that beautiful hymnal was written for comfort, for solace, as an expression of yearning for deliverance and salvation, the knowledge of the reality of the will, as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, is one of the most powerful pastoral messages that a suffering people could receive. I mean, look at our people today. Once again, we have become so emotionally invested in the outcome of American electoral politics. When you scan the horizon for most of our people, we think that politics is the only hope that we have. And yet, the more we vote, it seems like conditions in Black America worsen.
That's right.
So we are pretty much in the same spiritual predicament that our people were in when Wallace Willis wrote that song. We don't have any help that can come for us. We have not developed the kind of strong relationships with the international community that we should. We have not united as a people as we should. We have not pooled our resources as we should. And our best and brightest are continuing to look for a benevolent white person to help us solve our problem. So I believe, Brother Student Minister James, that we have to teach this reality, and we have to teach it in such a way that we show our people that there is real help for us, because these so-called UFO sightings represent the presence of God.
Yes, sir.
Who is in the world, and he has purposed himself to be our helper, to be our defender, to be our deliverer. The Bible in Isaiah talks about the people of God being robbed and spoiled and hidden away in prison houses. And then it says, but none saith restore. The scholars say this means that the people of God were without a deliverer. We bear witness that the teacher of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, Master Fard Muhammad, is the fulfillment of the prophecies regarding the coming of God, the salvation of his people, and that when God would come, he would have at his disposal this that the scriptures refer to as a chariot. See, the Bible, as Brother Student Minister Ilia Rashad is fond of saying, and it's all throughout his book. If you don't have his book, UFOs in the Nation of Islam, pause this and go and get it right now.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Go and get the book right now. Not yesterday, not in an hour, but right now. Because he proves and he documents that the God of the Bible and the God of the Holy Quran had at his disposal a vehicle. In some places, it's referred to a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. In other places, it's referred to as the New Jerusalem. In certain places, it's referred to as the chariot of God. But all throughout the Bible and the Quran, you see God having a chariot, and it was purposed for the deliverance of his people. But as Minister Farrakhan has taught us, it has a dual purpose. It is purpose for the deliverance of his people, but it is also purpose for the destruction of their enemies. And when you look at what has been recently documented about the presence of these wheels over American airspace, you see that those who are responsible for America's most powerful weapons arsenal, its nuclear weapons arsenal, that which singularly causes America to be the most feared government on earth. But those soldiers, those sentinels who are responsible for the upkeep of the nuclear arsenal, they said that when they saw these wheels in the sky, the same wheels that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was mocked about, the same wheels that Minister Farrakhan and his students have been mocked about. Right. The sentinels in charge of the nuclear arsenal said that when these wheels showed up, they had no more control over the nuclear arsenal. The weapons capabilities of America's most powerful weapons were disabled and taken offline when these wheels hovered over their location. So I just say all that to say that we serve a mighty God.
Yes, sir.
And he's real. And he has prepared both a plan of deliverance for us, and he's also prepared a punishment for our enemies if they refuse his divine command to give his people justice. So this message needs to be predominant among our people because, again, it is the greatest of all comforting messages to know that God is present in the world to save us as a people and to punish our enemies.
Man,
all praises due to Allah. Yes, sir.
Beautiful. Wonderful.
Yes, sir.
But we got questions still coming in. If you don't mind, Brother Jane, I'll start putting them up.
Oh, go right ahead, Brother Minister. That would be great.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put this book question that Brother Tony has. And I got the rest of it because, you know, Brother Tony like to make them long questions. So the internet, right. it only give you so much. So I give you part, you know, the last part of it, but I put it up first. All right. I did, brother, ask. Assalamu alaikum to all. In the late 1960s, early 1970s, and soon after the departure of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, there were a wave of books on ufology. Star people, aliens, published that passed off as scholarship but was not true scholarship, yet caught the attention of the American public. Much of these books made easily accessible in the checkout lines of supermarkets. Scholars later would use these sources as the basis of their UFO or UAP research. Then he asked the question, how is all of this part of a conspiracy to discredit the foundational teachings of the Nation of Islam?
Yes. Well, as you expected, Brother Tony's always going to ask one of those encyclopedic question.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Give you content.
His question is so big, it's cut off half my face on the screen. That's how big his question is.
Yes.
Brother, can we remove the verbiage so that we can see our brothers all praises to Allah? Yeah.
A true educator he is, Brother Tony. But yes, it is absolutely the enemy's purpose to misinform the public about the truth concerning these wheels.
That's right.
These so-called UFOs. And that has always been the case. We make the argument that the whole purpose of the worldwide UFO cover-up is to prevent the public from knowing the truth about these planes, which has everything to do with Elijah Muhammad, Minister Farrakhan, and the Nation of Islam. And this is no guesswork when we talk about that. This is something that can be illustrated, which is what we do.
Yes,
and
sir.
That's probably why our books and our works and our voices are the most censored when it comes to the whole censorship in social media and mass media, even from the government perspective. But we talk about this heavily in our book, UFOs and the Nation of Islam. There's a term that we coined. We call it preemptive propaganda. And we use that terminology because this is part of the tactic that the enemy has used to prevent the people from realizing the truth about these planes, even when they get to see these wheels for themselves. The enemy has literally conditioned the public such that through media, through movies, through TV, through radio, through their books and theories that they come up with, they have it such that when the people see these wheels for themselves, their first mind would not be to associate these planes with the ones that introduced them to the world. They won't associate these planes with Master Farrakhan Muhammad or the Honorable Elijah Muhammad or the Minister or the Nation. That's the last thing they would think of. When they see these wheels, they automatically assume some fictitious aliens, or they've been conditioned so much that they may even assume that it's something demonic, which is absolutely insane, because when you look at the popular idea about these crafts, there's an idea and an assumption that these are some alien technology from maybe some other planet or something like that. But here's the deal. There is absolutely no evidence nor even a sign that these crafts are from some other planet or some other galaxy. The only reason people even assume that is because of the conditioning of the media. There's not one iota of evidence that even suggests that these crafts are from elsewhere. But all the evidence points to the reality that these crafts are from right here on this earth, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam told you about it before the world even had concerns about it, proving who and what the source behind these crafts are. But because we've been so conditioned not to listen, not to accept plain truth that comes from somebody like us, here we are in 2024, almost 2025, over 90 years of the nation's existence, and most people, even your intelligent people, have no idea that the Nation of Islam has the answer to this phenomena. That, my friends, is because of a massive misinformation campaign to distort the truth about both subjects, UFOs and the Nation of Islam, and how these two entities are directly correlated.
Wow. Praise be to Allah. Thank you, dear brother, for sharing that. I know
I see my Screen is frozen again, huh?
Yeah, we can hear your voice loud and clear. We heard everything you said, but yeah, you paused, yeah. Sometimes
I wanted
please
to add
tell
a
me.
log to that brilliant answer that my brother gave, because in addition to the media's conditioning of the minds of the American people to dissuade them from looking at the Nation of Islam for source information regarding the UFO phenomenon, you also have the divine hand of God that from the outset kept this wisdom from the wise and the learned. And I'm reminded of Jesus in Matthew 11 and 25. And he says in this very profound passage, he says, I thank thee, O Father, for keeping these truths away from the wise and the learned, and instead revealing it unto a people who are babes or childlike. So when we pause to reflect that this earth-shattering kind of truth, that this earth-shaking message that has baffled and has confused the most learned of scientists, world rulers, religious leaders, that lo and behold, it was given free of charge to Black people in the Depression era Detroit, and that they received it with gladness, which makes Black people in America, therefore, the caretakers of the most significant and the most recent of the divinely revealed messages from God to man. This is extraordinary. So when Allah revealed the truth of the will, he didn't take it to the president of the United States. He didn't take it to the scholars and the scientists to reveal it to, but he revealed it to us, a people that the scriptures refer to as babes, a childlike people that American wicked culture and practice have infantilized and not made us the kind of people that we should be. But Allah says again in the scriptures, he would take the foolish things of the world and confound the wise. So this world and the rulers of America especially, they look down their noses at the Black man and the Black woman. They don't look at us in high regard. They brought us over here to be burden bearers. They helped them to build their society. And once we did it, they had no more use for us. They don't want us to go free unto ourselves, but they bear witness they don't have any more use for us. So we are people that the rulers of America don't like and they have looked down upon. But we are so loved by God that he gave us something that he did not give them. He gave us something well in advance of them even learning what it actually is. And as Brother Ilia Rashad has said, when they found out that this troublesome phenomenon called the UFOs was the exclusive purview of the Nation of Islam and its leadership, then they had to hurry to make sure that the masses of the American people were not beating a line to the doors of Muhammad's mosques and Muhammad's temples like they're going to in the near future. Right. As we were taught, a day is coming when we're going to have to teach the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 15-minute shifts, because the masses of the people are going to be coming and they're going to want to know this truth that has been hidden from them. So I say, like Jesus said, I'm so thankful to Allah that he kept the truth of the UFOs away from the wise and the prudent men in America, and instead revealed it unto the babe-like Black people, starting in Black Bottom, Detroit in the early 1930s. All praise belongs to Allah.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you, dear brother. Alhamdulillah. All right, we'll keep it going with the questions. This is from Calvin Atz. He states, question. He said, any idea of the aptitude test these Air Force pilots have to undergo? He said, I would guess that they have to handle much stress, so they shouldn't be marked as quacks, you know, when they make reports of what they've seen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what we've found is that so many of the most credible UFO reports and sightings have come from those like pilots, like military aircraft officials, like astronauts, and those who have qualifications and have spent time in the heavens more so than the average person. My son and nephews are in flight school and are pilots and whatnot. So in order to become a pilot and work in that capacity, you have to have a lot of credibility. You have to pass a lot of tests, not just aptitude, but psychological. So you have to be a pretty decent minded person, a level headed person. So if these are the type of people who are witnessing these crafts and are having trouble reporting it and have had trouble reporting it because their superiors have come down on them, because that's supposed to be a secret. You can't tell anybody what you see on a daily basis as a pilot, as a military airman, you see. So yes, it's the enemy who try to make it seem as though those who have seen and witnessed these crafts are somehow delusional, you know. But now is a day and time when you would look delusional if you don't recognize the fact that these planes exist. It was easy to make mockery back in the day before the evidence was as evident as it is now. But now that we know all these trillions of dollars from governments and militaries have been put on this very subject, man, we would look like an absolute idiot trying to deny the reality of these planes. And the reason you find most people, leaders, scholars, avoiding this subject matter is because the only logical conclusion that you can render is to admit and acknowledge that the Nation of Islam has been right and exact.
That's right.
And that is very difficult for most people to do. So instead of opening the conversation and having those difficult conversations and acknowledging the clear evidence about the Nation of Islam's role and relationship with this so-called phenomena, as they call it, instead of doing that, they rather just totally disregard the conversation altogether, or try to keep it in a real abstract, spooky, religious, fictional, way out there kind of thing, you know. But in terms of just a real intelligent conversation, it's amazing to me. I mean, it's still amazing how, and Brother Demetric can attest to this, how people, scholars of religion, political leaders, educators, scholars, academic scholars especially, how they run from us when it comes to dealing with this subject matter. You see, that lets us know that we have the absolute truth when it comes to this subject matter. The fact that the people that you look up to, I'm talking about the public, they look up to, they're either too afraid or not even allowed to engage us on this subject matter. And again, you know, a spoiler alert, the only reason is because he's going to prove that Minister Farrakhan is absolutely right. And if he and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad are right about this, it means they are absolutely right about God.
Come on.
And if they're right about the God in person, then common sense suggests that it's only fitting that if these men are right on the most important subject of all, then it behooves us to help those men and to help in that divine mission. Since it proves that God is present and God is with us, it is only fitting that we stand on the side of God and help those who are the bearers of that truth. And I'm talking about the Honorable Minister Farrakhan.
That's right.
It behooves any intelligent person to stand on the right side. But if we fear the enemy the way that we should fear Allah, then I feel sorry for us. As Brother Demetric just mentioned, it's sad how we put so much of our energy and belief and how vested we are in attempting to vote for some candidate as though that's going to solve our problems. And it never has.
Never has.
Never has. You know, I heard somebody say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting to yield a different result.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've been doing this for a long time now, thinking it's going to gain us freedom. And it has done nothing but left us naked and out of doors. So if I were you listening to this, I would take the easy and the best, most viable solution. Man, stand with the Honorable Minister Farrakhan and help.
That's right, brother.
Absolutely. Praise be to Allah. Now, it's something, you know, if we can go into this real quick, you know, because I know we talked about it earlier, you know, we grew up on watching movies, and normally when it shows UFOs, you know, you see creatures coming from out of town, you know, this and that and stuff, you know, it's never a connection there. Now with the answer, you know, I noticed like you deal with the wills and also deal with the coming of God. In the book of Ezekiel, you know, it talks about now his vision. He has a vision of the coming of God, and also the wills is mentioned about it also in Ezekiel. And then also it's interesting how with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad meeting Master Farrakhan Muhammad, he met him in September, the coming of God, and then also the more than a vision experience of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan happened in September. So it seemed like it's a parallel between the wills and God's coming. That the laws found, and those who try to negate that fact, they try to put it on, they would rather make it alienated, ET and all this and that, than to connect the dots. But this is something that you focus on. Could we talk more about that parallel if we could?
Well, that's big there. I know me and Brother Demetric are going to have to jump in on this one. That's a mouthful right there. But it is evident all throughout the scriptures, whether you are a Jew, Hebrew, Israelite, whatever you want to call yourself, if you believe in the scriptures of the Old Testament, the Torah, if you believe in the gospel and Jesus Christ, if you believe in Prophet Muhammad and the Holy Quran and all of these major faith traditions, all these scriptures foretell of God's coming. There's no way we can get around that. And all these scriptures describe God's intervention in human affairs with the accompaniment of his flying vessels, whether they are called wheels, as they are in Ezekiel, whether they are called flying chariots, as they are called several places in the scripture, his throne that's up high, clouds and pillar of clouds and pillars of fires in the sky. I mean, all of these descriptions of God's flying vessels that are used as part of his heavenly arsenal, military arsenal, mind you. So it's at a point now that we would literally be hypocritical and outright negligent if we say we believe in any of those scriptures and then try to turn around and deny the real world fulfillment of what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan represent to us. It shows that you say you believe in the scriptures, but you only want to believe in the scriptures as it appears in your imagination. But when it comes to real world fulfillment,
Yes.
undeniable facts and sightings and encounters and billions and trillions of taxpayer dollars going to this thing, you want to disregard all of that so you can hold on to a fictitious understanding and belief of an abstract spook god. See, that's hypocritical. You know what? That's dumb, to be honest with you, because it's hypocritical and unintelligent, because the scriptures clearly point us to a day and time when all of these things would be fulfilled, and to turn our backs on the actual fulfillment of it just because the person doesn't look or sound the way you think they ought to look or sound in our little mind of ours. See, that's day and time is over with. We're in a day and time where we're just going to have to accept the plain truth or fall victim to what's coming or what's already here. So what we have, man, is nothing that should be overlooked. And I was in that part by sharing words that I received from the minister a few weeks ago when we were blessed to deliver the lecture at Mas Mariam pertaining to signs of the Messiah. I was blessed to be able to hear from our minister shortly thereafter. And fortunately, he loved and liked the message that we had. He congratulated me, but he reminded me of the passion that I've always had when it comes to this subject matter of the will. And he was telling me that it is the season where really all of us need to be teaching on this. It's the season for it, because Allah is doing some things and he wants to be known. So it behooves us now, those who claim to believe, to make sure that we are standing fervently and strong on this actual fact, mathematical theology that we have that nobody can disprove. So it's now time for us to stand up and go before the world and declare that God, Allah, did come in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad and try to disprove us. See, that's the day and time we living in. And I'm so thankful to be a follower of the Honorable Minister Farrakhan and the teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, what is described as Brother Demetric often tells us, the invincible truth. Man, we will be foolish if we don't stand with that.
Allahu Akbar. Absolutely.
Allahu Akbar.
Thank you. Any additional words, Brother Demetric, at this time?
I just co-sign what my brother shared. You know, we are at a day and time when our people are awakening to truth. And one of the troubling realities is that, you know, the clergy class in Black America has not adequately prepared their congregants for the UFO phenomenon. And since most of our people are connected to some kind of spiritual or religious base, then the UFO phenomenon escapes their understanding because they have never even been introduced to it. And so I believe that as time continues and you begin to see more and more sightings, that opens the door and that creates a teachable moment for those of us who are students of Minister Farrakhan to begin to share this with our people. As Brother Student Minister Ilia shared from the minister, you know, truth sometimes out of season can be harmful. But when it is the season for certain truths, then that is the truth that produces the greatest harvest, the greatest yield from our sowing of seeds. So we have to be studied in this. Again, get Brother Student Minister Ilia's book. Get the writings of Dr. Wesley Muhammad. Above all, go and review the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, The Time and What Must Be Done lecture series.
Yes, sir.
The last 7 or 8 messages where the minister exclusively deals with this subject, bringing together a beautiful and majestic synthesis of the Bible, the Quran, and modern science that has amassed many testimonies and many powerful men and women who have gone on record. You know, there's a book written by Leslie Kean that is very significant because it exclusively deals with the testimonies of not, you know, the people that they normally show you, people that, you know, are hanging out in a trailer park late at night drinking moonshine. That, you know, that's the stereotypical person that has seen a UFO. But this book has amassed the testimony of generals, pilots, military officers, government officials, as though Allah wanted people whose credibility could not be impeached to be a witness of his traveling, flying chariots, his wheels, his mother wheel and baby planes. See, because when you begin to share certain truths, then people begin to say, well, consider the source. Well, when people like Governor Fife Symington, the governor of Arizona, when people like Kirsan Ilyamzanov, one of the presidents of the Russian republics, when all of these kinds of people who have very good credibility, who are elected officials, who are scientists, who are highly decorated military personnel, when they begin to say, you know what, these wheels represent a reality that we don't quite understand, but we bear witness that they are real. Reminds me of a great lecture student minister, may Allah be pleased, Minister Jabril Muhammad taught, called Real, R-E-A-L versus Real, R-E-E-L, because he recognized at that time that Hollywood was presenting this reality in a fanciful way that was intended to misdirect the American people away from the reality of the UFOs. And so he lifted up what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad described in terms of the wheel and the baby planes, and he put that up against the fanciful movies and television shows coming out of Hollywood. And I would just say, you know, for us as believers, because, you know, by and large, Closing the Gap is believer-generated content for an audience of believers. But I would say to us, beloved brother and sister, make sure before you go out and you read other people writing about the wheel and the UFO phenomenon, that you root yourself in what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan have given to us.
Absolutely.
Because we are not, as Brother Student Minister Ilia Rashad said, we are not dealing with guesswork. We are not dealing with some scientist theories, which the definition of a theory is an educated guess. We're not dealing with guesswork. We are dealing with a divinely revealed truth. Just think about how history now records that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is the first man after his teacher, Master Fard Muhammad, to teach publicly the reality of the UFO phenomenon. Now, Elijah Muhammad, he only went to 3 years of formal education. And I can guarantee you there was nothing in 3 years of formal education from the Georgia school system that was set up from the to educate the children of slaves that would have prepared the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to make up or to concoct or to fabricate his teachings on the wheel. He never said that this was something that he contrived of to teach his people because it would be a comfort to us. He said that this is what Master Fard Muhammad revealed to him. So this is a revelatory truth. And if you and I as believers, if we will root ourselves in what has been given to us, then and only then can we entertain what other people have said or written in a way that we filter out their educated guesses and are able to cherry pick those parts of what they have put forth that align with what Allah revealed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan. So don't be coming up to Brother Student Minister Ilia Rashad asking him about no grades. Don't be coming up to Student. Stop inboxing him and DMing him this crazy stuff that does not have anything to do with what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan have given to us.
Come on, Muhammad.
Because sometimes our questions reveal that we have not even studied what God gave to us.
Come on, brother.
The scientists are learning about the wheels as a result of millions of dollars of research. And God gave us the truth of it for free. And we won't even avail ourselves of it. So, brother and sister, go into what God gave us. It is an invincible truth. Don't be afraid. Can't nobody move you off your square of what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan gave to us.
That's right.
We are the authorities on the subject. Everybody else is guessing.
Yes, sir.
Hold fast, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told Brother Malcolm. He said, brother, hold your position.
Yeah.
Stay where I put you, because the whole world is coming to where we are.
To where we are. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Praise be to Allah. Wonderful. Thank you, dear brother.
Yes, sir.
Praise
Brother, Student Minister Chad, and our distinguished guest, I'd like to go back to your reference of that profound series of the time and what must be done, wherein the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan refers to one of the wheels, or to the wheels, as Allah God's calling card.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he also alluded to the fact that maybe the enemy has one in his possession that Allah allowed to get into his possession for them to study, to see what kind of power and technology they're up against. But in that series also, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us of the twofold purpose of the wheel. There is a benevolent factor of the wheel that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, again, in those 8 installments of that monumental series, The Time and What Must Be Done, he shares with us is a benefit, could be a benefit to the enemy, of course, but to everyone if they would but avail themselves of it.
Uh-huh.
Let's talk about if you don't mind, Brother Student Minister Ilia and Student Minister Demetric, let's talk about the benefits of the wheel, how it could benefit humanity.
Oh, yes. You know, I frequently use the little play on words describing how the scripture says, thy will be done. You know, will, yeah. But what that suggests is that what is already up there, what is already on that wheel, which is purity, which is the future heaven on earth. But before that wisdom, that type of life and lifestyle, the new world can be implemented on this earth, there has to be a fall of the present world, which is currently ruled by Satan.
Yes, sir.
There's no way that these spaces can occupy the same space at the same time. So this is what all the scriptures foretell of a judgment and a destruction before the kingdom of God is made manifest on earth. So the good and benefit that is on that wheel, much of it we can benefit from now. We don't have to wait.
Come on, brother.
If we would follow the directives and instructions of the representative of that wheel, which is the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. You know, we have to make sure that we don't have a spooky mindset when it comes to God. yes, the wheel is real and has the answers and solutions to everything. All of Earth's problems, the answers and solutions and healing is already there.
Mm-hmm.
But the same guidance and power behind that wheel is the same guidance, the same power, the same God that gave us the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Farrakhan for us to benefit from. You see? So again, it would make all the sense in the world that if we want to benefit from what the wheel has to offer, then we shouldn't overlook the representative that God gave us.
That's right, brother.
You see?
Yes, sir.
It's nothing spooky.
That's
See,
right.
sometimes we get so spaced out that we think the God ought to come to us in a dream, or the wheel need to come directly in front of my front door in order for me to benefit. That's kind of a childish way
Come on,
of
brother.
looking at that. When the God has already provided a man who has sacrificed almost 70 years trying to give us the truth that we can benefit from. You know, it's much like a doctor. You know, when the doctor, he'll give you a prescription, he'll analyze your condition, and based on what is needed, he'll provide a prescription and he'll give you recommendations for you to follow so that you can be healed. Well, Allah is the doctor, and he has provided for us a prescription, and that prescription does require responsibility on our part. You know, it's nothing spooky. It's not like Allah is going to put some magic wand over us and, ooh, no, you are all of a sudden healed of all of your problems. No, he gave us how to eat to live. He already foresaw the type of ailments and diseases that would plague our people, and he gave us solutions in advance. But it behooves us to follow them, you see, and we can't gain benefit from the wheel and all the glory that's a part of that wheel if we try to overlook and overstep the man that God has put before us.
Come
you
on,
see?
brother. Yes,
So,
sir.
In short, the wheel and the God of the wheel made the wheel for our benefit. Now, there are things that we don't have the power to do on this side of things. For example, we don't have the power to go and fight the oppressors, the Western world and their militaries. We don't have the tanks and the gunships and the nuclear and atomic bombs to fight this enemy with in that sense. So Allah is letting us know that he'll take care of that part.
That's right.
We don't have to worry about that. We don't even have to fret because he has already provided the military arsenal that is not even any match for the wheel. You see? So the wheel is here for our benefit. Let Allah do his part with the wheel. Let the angels and the scientists do their part when it comes to taking care of the enemies and the nuclear weapons and all of that. But we still have a responsibility to do our part and follow the guidance, the wisdom, and the solutions that have already been given to us by his representative, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan.
Yes, sir, brother. Praise be to Allah.
Allahu Akbar. Beautiful. Okay, we'll keep the question coming. And you kind of touched on this a little bit, but the question was asked, hold on, why did God allow this technology to fall into the reach of the civilization of Yaqub?
Well, I think one of the important aspects of, as Brother Student Minister James pointed out, when the minister talked about the incident in Roswell, you know, sometimes we don't think through the methodology of God where the wicked are concerned.
Yeah.
You know, for a suffering people to learn that God got a weapon he gonna whip the wicked with, the oppressed people and the suffering people get very excited.
Yes,
for
sir.
that kind of news. That's good
That's
news.
right, brother.
And so it can be a little bit disconcerting to such a people if it looks like that the God would give the wicked a chance to escape his divine wrath. And since we were talking about Ezekiel, because Ezekiel, probably more than any of the other prophets, has a very detailed drama with the wheels, according to the Bible's writings. But Ezekiel in the 33rd chapter talks about how God does not delight in the destruction of the wicked.
That's right.
He really desires the wicked to repent of their wickedness and come back into good favor with him. So as brother asked the question, and as Minister James said that the minister talked about, that perhaps Allah allowed the enemy to get a chance to have one of the smaller planes. Well, see, Allah is always interested in warning the wicked. See, sometimes a bully can be acting real bad until he finds out, you know, as we like to say in street language, what you working with.
Yes, sir.
You know, if the bully thinks that you're an easy mark, if the bully thinks that you're an easy target, see, my mind goes to the Bible when it talks about the Lamb and how he appeared before the powerful. Now, the powerful looked upon the Lamb, and to them, he looked like he had been slain from the foundation of the earth.
Yes, sir.
But he got up from that position and he broke the seals on the books that the powerful could not unlock. So sometimes God allows those who are in his crosshairs for judgment to see just a little bit of what they're up against, that perhaps they might say, you know what, we need to rethink this thing. Perhaps, as the old saying goes, our arms are too short to box with God.
Yes, sir.
You see? So now the enemy is compelled, forced to tell the American people there is a reality that we are afraid of. There's a reality that we don't control. I would also recommend to the viewers, go and watch what they call the citizens' hearings for disclosures.
Yes, sir.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan attended some of these hearings. And these hearings, which were convened by conscientious members of the United States Congress for the first time, assembled and brought together scientists, military officials, scholars, experts who went on the record regarding what they know about UFOs. And much of what they testified to is in harmony with what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan have taught. See, again, when you root yourself in the teachings, you can entertain fools and you can entertain scholars and benefit from both sessions. So we are now at a time and space where, as Allah says in the Holy Quran, that for the believers, he will establish for them their religion. See, we're in that season. So just as it's the season to teach on the wheel, it's the season to teach on the reality of God. It's the season to teach on the original man.
Right.
It's the season to teach on how to eat to live. It's the season to teach on the existence of life on other planets. Everything that Allah revealed to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is being borne witness to in today's time by people who were not intending to bear witness to it.
Mhm.
That's how you know God's hand is involved, when he compels those who probably would have mocked us to ultimately do research and produce findings and draw conclusions that the believers bear witness. This is what Allah revealed to us. So Allah is establishing for us the teachings today. And as my brother shared, you know, we are living in a time now that's different from a previous time.
Yes, sir.
It used to be that you might look foolish believing in the teachings, but today you look foolish if you don't believe in the teachings.
That's right. That's right.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you, dear brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And I know we have a video also. I don't know at what point that y'all wanted to, if we was gonna share it, that you sent to the Minister Ilia. And also I know that our tech team have it on hand. Did we plan on sharing that by chance? Or what was the deal with that?
Yeah, I think we should share it. It's dealing with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's meeting with Master Fard Muhammad. One of the most profound declarations that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad made regarding the truth that he teaches is that he got it directly from God himself.
Yes, yes.
It'd be
we also have just a few slides that we wanted to share as well.
Please go right ahead. Yeah, go right ahead.
Just to highlight, you know, the minister's vision. You know, so
yes,
I don't know if now is the time or if you want.
That'll be great. Later. No, that'll be great. That'll be a great.
I just wanted to, because the beautiful thing about this show airing today is that we get a chance to commemorate two monumental moments in our nation's history.
Yes, sir.
It is the September 17th, More Than a Vision-like experience of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And tomorrow is September 22nd, which is the commemoration of the very first time the Honorable Elijah Muhammad saw and heard his teacher, Master Fard Muhammad. So I want to just share just a couple points, because the minister shared in the announcement, which I would encourage all of the believers that if you haven't seen the announcement, it's on YouTube and it's also on NOI.org. But go and watch. It's about 30 minutes. And the minister delivered a press conference because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told him, brother, I want you to deliver a press conference and I want you to reveal that the president have planned a war. So part of what the minister said was, I am here to announce today that President Bush has met with the Joint Chiefs of Staff under the direction of General Colin Powell to plan a war against the Black people of America, the Nation of Islam, and Louis Farrakhan, with particular emphasis on our Black youth under the guise of a war against drug sellers, drug users, gangs, and violence, all under the heading of extremely urgent national security. Now, this is in 1989 that the minister delivers this. So one of the important things to see is how did the events and developments relative to Black America unfold in the aftermath of Minister Farrakhan's press conference that really bear witness to what the minister shared. So I want to just share a couple slides just to show how what the minister said about the government planning a war against Black people in the nation, evidence has come out to vindicate the minister's press conference that he received from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which also is suggestive of what we believe in the Nation of Islam, that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did not die in 1975, but
That's
that
right.
he is alive and well and is functioning as a Mahdi, guiding Minister Farrakhan, because the meaning of the word Mahdi is guide. specifically a self-guided one. And if you don't believe that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has graduated to that level, then you have not paid attention to how he has guided Minister Farrakhan in the rebuilding of the Nation of Islam against overwhelming opposition coming from the United States government, the ignorant among our people, and even some ignorant ones in the Muslim world. But look at how the minister's words have been proven true. This is a news story that talks about how when the Cold War ended, this is a couple years after Minister Farrakhan's press conference in 1992, when the Cold War began to go in, the FBI and CIA began to bring their operatives from foreign theaters of war, specially trained spies. They were reassigning them from foreign theaters of war into the inner cities of America. To do what? To spy on Black youth, to infiltrate so-called street organizations or gangs and work for their destruction. Now, we all know little brothers and sisters who are part of so-called gang life. Do we know any of them who would be smart enough or sophisticated enough to be a match for a specially trained spy or operative? And we wonder why, in spite of many of the peace efforts by the nation and by other conscientious members of the Black community stakeholders, that we still have a problem of youth crime and violence. Is because, as the minister said, the president planned a war against our people, especially our youth. Another point that we raise is how in the aftermath of Minister Farrakhan's announcement, in the aftermath of his press conference, it gradually began to be discovered that America's so-called war on drugs was a part of the war on Black people, the war on Black youth. Yes, a very famous author, Gary Webb, he wrote in his book, Dark Alliance, for the better part of a decade. This is in the 90s. A San Francisco Bay Area drug ring sold tons of cocaine to the Crips and Blood street gangs of Los Angeles and funneled millions in drug profits to Latin American guerrilla army run by the U.S. CIA, a Mercury News investigation has found. This drug network opened the first pipeline between Colombia's cocaine cartels and the Black neighborhoods of Los Angeles, a city now known as the crack capital of the world. The cocaine that flooded in helped spark a crack explosion in urban America and provided the cash and connections needed for LA's gangs to buy automatic weapons.
Go ahead, brother.
What did the minister say? That the president met with his Joint Chiefs of Staff to plan a war, and that time revealed to the minister that their war was against the Nation of Islam in America, and particularly Black youth. Just think about how in recent times we now know or have learned of that which is called the prison industrial complex, the school to prison pipeline. Our sister, Michelle Alexander, she documents in her book that the rise of the Black population in jails and prisons all over America is not an accident. It's not because Black people commit more crimes, but it is a part of a war. She writes, so herein lies the paradox and predicament of young Black men labeled criminals. Quote, a war has been declared on them. Now, Professor Alexander is a Division I level scholar and academic, but as she studied the condition of Black youth filling up jails and prisons, she drew the conclusion, after studying and research, she drew the conclusion that agreed with what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had revealed to his minister. She goes on to say, and they have been rounded up for engaging in precisely the same crimes that go largely ignored in middle and upper class white communities' possession, you see? And so, you know, we show that what the minister experienced, see, it was a divine experience that was designed to warn our people. And it lines up with the experience of the prophet. Glory to him, the Quran says, who carried his servant by night from the sacred mosque to the remote mosque, whose precincts we blessed, that we might show him of our signs. Surely he is the hearing, the seeing. Now, this that we read about in the Holy Quran is when the prophet went on his night journey, when he was transported from Mecca to Jerusalem. And he went into the inner sanctum of God. And it was there that Allah revealed certain things to him about the religion. Most famously, we have resulting from the prophet's night journey, the institution of the 5 daily prayers. But there were other things that Allah shared with the prophet that altered the trajectory of the prophet's work from that point going forward. And you can see the same thing happening in the life of Minister Farrakhan. Everything that the minister has done to benefit our people, to guide our people, to warn our people, to teach our people, you can trace it all the way back to September 17th, 1985, and him following what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave to him. Remember, the minister said when he was in his more than a vision-like experience, he saw a scroll come down before him. And on that scroll was cursive writing. And he began to read it as he heard the voice of his teacher. Now that's significant because in Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 3, Ezekiel is told to eat the scroll that it would be sweet in his belly like honey.
Yes.
See, this idea of a sweet chariot.
Ooh,
and this scroll that the servant of God had to consume. In other words, the minister was not just given that the president had planned a war, but he was given guidance for the next years and decades of the Nation of Islam. And just a brief overview of some of the things that came in the aftermath of the minister's more than a vision-like experience. The minister soon thereafter went on a Stop the Killing tour, crisscrossing America, warning Black youth that the president and the Joint Chiefs of Staff had a plan of genocide against us. Not long thereafter, you saw the Let Us Make Man tour, where Minister Farrakhan began to fill stadiums and arenas teaching Black men. He also, during his time, worked with other community leaders in Los Angeles and Minneapolis and other cities to cause a gang truce. But as we already showed, gangs were being infiltrated by reassigned government operatives at the end of the Cold War. So the gang truce was short-lived because they didn't want to see the Bloods and the Crips drop their flags and forget red and blue and prioritize Black, you see. Right. The minister also went and he taught several major meetings of Black women only, you see. See, he's coming from the vision and something was put into him of guidance, you know. What was on that scroll and what he heard from his teacher inspired the minister to increase his salvific work among our people, crisscrossing the country even against the advice of his doctors. It said, minister, you need to get some rest. The minister said, no, I have to warn my people. And we all know what happened on October 16, 1995, the culmination 10 years after the More Than a Vision-like experience, the Million Man March. And what were some of the outcomes of the Million Man March? 1 million new voters, 15,000 new applications, Black families wanting to adopt Black children, a decrease nationally in Black-on-Black crime that intriguingly President Clinton tried to take credit for. But those of us who know, we know Minister Farrakhan told us as Black men, when you go back home, don't call your woman the B word. Don't be quick to kill your brother. See your brother as your other self. Increased child support payments came after. Increased interest in Black men going into churches and joining community organizations. That's very significant because many clergy, many pastors at that time discouraged the male members of their church from going to the Million Man March. But look at how Allah's servant is so graceful and so majestic and magnanimous. He didn't tell those nearly 2 million men, join the nation when you go back home. He said, go and find a spiritual house a spiritual center where spiritual values are being taught that you agree with. So lo and behold, many of the pastors who discouraged the men of their church from going became beneficiaries of the minister's charitable command that they should go back and find their own house of worship to join. I'm saying that we need to pay more attention to this vision-like experience, because to me, that experience with the minister, it was like a graduation or a coronation. It was certainly an elevation from being a man that we just say is a bold black man to a man that entered into the august assembly of Allah's divine messengers and servants. So I just wanted to share that, because September the 17th, 1985 should be the kind of day that all of our people hold near and dear to their hearts, because that's the day that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan received divine guidance to save our very lives.
Go ahead.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wow.
Thank you. Praise be to Allah. All right, so at this time, you got a chance to show the slides. If y'all would like, we can do the video at this time, if y'all like. I mean, it's a treat. I think the audience is most definitely in for
yes, sir,
a great treat. You know, so we can do that at this time. Praise be to Allah.
What's happening?
I think something with the sound, trying to get the sound to come through. With our tech team, we cannot hear it. If you could pause it. I know, Brother Demetric, you have control on your end too. By chance, did you have it or?
No, but if I had the file, we could put it up.
Okay. Okay.
Well, and the thing about it is we tested this video to make sure that the audio and video was correct. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, technology.
My dear production tech sister Sheila, I don't know what happened, but we do know that we did have sound.
Yeah. Yeah, because we most definitely can't hear it on this side. Sister Sheila.
Now I have the file. I don't know if I could play it or share it, and if sound would come through.
If you could email it to me as an MP4, do you have it as an MP4?
It might take a minute for it to get through via email, but I could check.
Okay.
See if you could download it from your Instagram. Is that the one you shared on Instagram earlier?
Yeah, but I can send you the actual file. And for our listening audience, what we have is an excerpt, a small excerpt from the documentary Answered Part 2, The Coming of God. And there's a certain segment where we deal with the meeting when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad met Master Fard Muhammad.
That's right.
Which on tomorrow, September 22nd, will have been, somebody help me out with the math, 90, how many years? 92 years since the meeting. It was on September 22nd of 1931.
Yes, sir.
That the Honorable Elijah Muhammad met Master Fard Muhammad in Detroit, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
This is the conception of what you now know as the Nation of Islam.
93 years, yes.
The real immaculate conception.
That's right, brother.
That's right. Praise be to Allah. All right. Why are you doing it? Let's see one more time, Sister Sheila, if you could, and put it up and try to unmute it and see if it will play. because I know it's muted on this end too. So we'll try. While that's coming along, Brother Ilia, why Student Minister Demetric is doing that. Brother Ali, he had a question where he was asking about, he said, Assalamu alaikum, family. He said, my question is there's a documentary called The Ship of Lights by Brother Carlos Diaz to Portland, Mexico. He said, will we talk with him about the will he interacted with? Because as I understand, he knows our teacher, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. That's a question that Brother Ali asked.
So make sure I understand his question.
Okay.
Is there a documentary called Ships of Light? I recall Carlos Diaz having some type of video that was comprised of many of the sightings and photographs that he was fortunate to take of these wheels in or near Tepoztlan, Mexico over a period of time. It was Savior's Day 2002 where he was invited to Savior's Day along with Mother Tynetta, who showcased some of those pictures and imagery. And this was back in the early 90s when most of his photographs and videos were taken. And because Carlos Diaz already had a decent reputation in that part of Mexico, his sightings were taken seriously. And many UFO skeptics and experts have attempted to analyze the footage and pictures that Mr. Diaz had. And for the most part, practically all of them bear witness that those are some authentic pictures. And all of what this does is just continues to bear witness that the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is right and exact.
That's right.
So we're at a day and time where, how much evidence do we need now? How many more millions, tens or hundreds of millions of more witnesses do we need before we can accept and bear witness and be bold enough and wise enough to stand with the man of God who represents those crafts? So what does it take? If we don't bear witness by now, my God.
Right. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Thank you, dear brother. Absolutely. I know he's doing that. All right.
Well, let's see.
Yeah, we can see if it's
Sister Sheila.
Yeah, we can try it again and see. You know how sometimes technology works.
Yeah.
Well, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that when he was a child, he would read the Bible. And as he read the Bible, he was also hearing stories from his grandmother about what her father had experienced as a slave. Some of the biographical material about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's early life point to him literally seeing a lynching victim. And so when he began to grow into his maturity, he had a mind that made a connection between the suffering of our people and the scriptural writings.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad or his wife said this man was teaching, and he felt that he had to now. He had this urgent need to hear this man. And every time he would go to where the man was meeting, he would get there, the man was gone. And it was just creating this urgent desire to hear, this yearning to hear this man. So September 22nd, 1931, he hears for the first time his teacher, Master Farrakhan Muhammad.
when I met him, I looked at him and he, it just came to me like this, that this is the Son of Man that the Bible says, that prophesied that will come in the last days of the world.
So when he met Master Farrakhan Muhammad in September of 1931, he had a certain orientation of mind. He was sensitive to the suffering of his people, and he was very versed in the biblical scriptures.
Elijah Muhammad recognized the man, Fard Muhammad, when he first went out to hear this man teaching in Detroit. He heard from what Master Fard Muhammad was teaching. He recognized him instantly according to the scriptures, that this was the one in fulfillment of the prophecies of the Son of Man, or the second coming of Jesus.
He hears him, and the man, he said, was speaking in like the third person, that God is going to do this and do this, and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in his mind, said, no, it's you that man.
And that I couldn't get that out of me. And I shook hands with him, and I said to him, I say, you are the one that the Bible prophesies that will come at the end of the world under the name Son of Man and under the name the second coming of Jesus. And so he looked at me a little stern, and then he smiled and he put his head down to my beside my head and whispered in my ear and said these words. He said, yes, I am the one, but who knows that? But yourself. And be quiet.
It was in 1931 when this God in this strange form was in Detroit, and the people didn't recognize who he was. But then in Detroit, he did meet, or in the suburb of Detroit, he met a man who did see past the disguise.
Well, when I first met him, it came to me that he was the man that the Bible prophesied would come in the last days as the Son of Man. And I recognized him to be that, as I had studied Bible ever since I was a little child. When I first learned to read, I learned to read Bible.
He finds a man from among us that he had been searching for. He knew who he was looking for, and he found him. And believe it or not, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad knew who he was looking for, and he found him.
But Elijah had been preconditioned with a certain heart. So when he saw Master Farrakhan Muhammad, it was, as the Quran states, certainly he saw him in another descent, and his heart was not untrue in seeing what he saw. He saw God.
While the people reject God in his unrecognizable form, there's one from among the people who recognizes God despite his disguise. And this one that recognizes God in his disguise, he says, I know who you are.
Then when I met this man, then I told him, I said, you are the one that the Bible teaches that will come, the Son of Man or the Messiah. And so he whispered in my ear. He got close to me, he looked all around, see who heard that. And he whispered in my ear and told me, he said, yes. He said, but keep quiet. He says, don't say anything. to anyone about that. You say, I will let you know that. Say that.
And then does something strange. He tells him, shh, don't tell anybody.
Master Farrakhan Muhammad didn't announce himself to the world. No, instead, he found one he would reveal his secrets to. Secrets that sounded strange and outlandish at first.
Praise be to Allah.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Well,
Wonderful. That was wonderful. That was a treat right there, family.
Absolutely.
An excerpt from Answered Part 2.
That's right.
Coming of God. So make sure you visit nationbrothers.com to check out the video, the full documentary, or documentaries. We have the first one, the Prelude episode, if you hadn't seen that. So we're excited about that now. So definitely check it out.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Great. That most definitely was an appetizer. Yeah, y'all gotta watch it. Oh Lord, my God, it's great.
And what a wonderful way to approach the conclusion of this broadcast. We have a few more minutes. If there is a pressing question about the student minister Chad that you want to utilize these few minutes to address by our esteemed guests.
Because of the time frame, and I know how it can go, I think we'll wait for a part 2 because we most definitely want to, our listening audience. We try to get this within that 2-hour frame so we can most definitely be able to post it and share it again. So that's the thing. For those that we didn't get a chance to answer your question because the questions was coming in, know that inshallah will be a part 2. All right.
Absolutely.
It always is. All righty. Praise be to Allah.
Well, at least let our esteemed guests, let the audience, the viewing and listening audience know how they can access the materials that they so diligently prepared for our benefit. Student Minister Ilia Rashad and, of course, Student Minister Demetric. How can we get your books, your writings, your tapes? How?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. As we previously stated, for some of our resources, particularly the documentaries of Answered, the Prelude episode, as well as Part 2, The Coming of God, those are available for online streaming. Purchase one time and stream as much as you like from your phone, computer, or what have you. Or if you want the collector's DVD, we just made the DVD available. And I was surprised. I didn't know as many people use DVDs, but we made the collector's DVD available. And look, those things were selling. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I should listen to the audience a little more. So, but those resources, as well as our books, UFOs and the Nation of Islam, and other books and resources, we do have available at our website, nationbrothers.com. Again, that's nationbrothers.com. And of course, we're also on social media, Instagram and Facebook and X as Ilia Rashad. And I guess with that, I'll also turn it over to the research minister himself, Brother Demetric.
Yes, sir.
So honored to once again have had this opportunity and privilege. And we would also encourage the brothers and sisters who are listening, you can go to researchminister.com and get some of our books and writings. And you can also go and subscribe to Researching the Minister YouTube channel, where we are posting our recent lectures. And we're excited to invite you to subscribe and to like and to share, over there on YouTube. It's called Researching the Minister. It doesn't have a whole lot of fanfare on that channel, but that's deliberate. We're not trying to draw too much attention of the enemy. So it's kind of a plain Jane channel, but the wisdom that we're sharing on that channel is not plain Jane. It's from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the minister. So go over there to the YouTube channel. We're really trying to grow and develop it and as a online repository for our lectures. So we encourage you to go there, as well as to our website, researchminister.com.
Thank you both, brother ministers. And for those of you who enjoyed this show, as I'm sure you did, if you are as edified by it as we are here in the studio, how you were in the audience, you can help us with this programming by donating to Closing the Gap broadcast via PayPal, jkingdom1@aol.com, or Cash App, $CTG broadcast, or Zelle at closingthegapbroadcast@gmail.com. We encourage your donations, dear family, to bring you this relevant programming. Thank you. To you, Brother Chad.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you. All right. In closing announcement, we just wanted to share about, make sure that you pick up the latest Final Call, The Reality of the Will. You can go to finalcall.com. Also, when you see the brothers out in the streets, most definitely hit them up and get your latest edition. And also, just go on the digital. You can go through the digital, finalcalldigital.com, to sign up for a subscription also, okay? Praise be to Allah. Store.finalcall.com to get all the latest of the DVDs, any books from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You could go there to pick up copies also. All right. And then Final Call Radio, 24 hours a day, you can hear the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, different speeches. Also, you can listen to his music on finalcallradio.com, the app, and purchase your Let's Change the World. You can also pick that up. All right. Praise be to Allah. And we thank those for tuning in, whether it's your very first or second time. If you would like to learn more about this and you would like to be in the orientation class, we want you also to join us at www.noi.org/join to fill out this digital form. All right. And by chance, if you are in the Bay Area, we want to invite you out to Mosque number 47 tomorrow. By God's grace, I will be giving a lecture that's entitled Divine Intervention from Savage to God. Join us at Mosque 47 at 5508 North 50th Street, Tampa, Florida, family. If not, make sure you can tune in or go to your nearest mosque and study group that's in your cities. If not, tune into the NOI.org, our national webcast. All right. Thank you, family. Praise be to Allah.
Thank you all once again. A wonderful show. We want to extend our gratitude to our dear brother, student minister Ilia Rashad Muhammad and student minister Demetric Muhammad. We certainly are going to call you back for a part 2. And so until next week, same time, same station, Closing the Gap broadcast welcomes you to attend. Thank you. And may Allah God bless you all. And I greet you with the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Salam, sir.